Teach you to catch big fish with small hooks and thin lines. Today, a fellow angler had a chat with me and asked a very interesting question: why is it that others can always catch big fish weighing 7 or 8 catties with small hooks and thin lines, but my lines always break even when I use 3-number or 4-number lines? I wonder if you have encountered a similar situation and thought about the reasons behind it. There are actually many reasons. For example, the fish that breaks your line might be much larger, far exceeding 7 or 8 catties. After all, in most cases of line breaking, you can't see the fish, and even if you do, it's hard to accurately estimate its weight. Fish appear smaller underwater. So why can small hooks and thin lines catch big fish? It's because small hooks and thin lines cause less harm to the fish, and your rod lifting force won't be strong either, so the fish's resistance will naturally not be fierce. When using thick hooks and heavy lines, many anglers feel confident and set the hook quite aggressively. As a result, the fish get severely frightened and resist fiercely. To catch big fish with small hooks and thin lines, experience, skills, and luck are all indispensable. Luck is hard to explain, and experience requires the accumulation of time and honing in actual battles, which is also not easy to elaborate on. Only skills can be discussed in detail. I have roughly summed up 4 relatively useful methods, which I will share with you below. To battle big fish with small hooks and thin lines, first choose the right fishing rod. When it comes to battling big fish with small hooks and thin lines, many people will say to use a soft rod, but that's only half right. Stiff rods are definitely not usable, but not all soft rods are good. Remember, although the rod is soft, its waist strength must not be poor. If once a big fish is hooked, the rod's waist fails or collapses, it will be extremely difficult to reel in the big fish. You might even end up being dragged around by the fish, and there's no way to protect the line. However, rods with good waist strength are often not cheap, usually costing hundreds or even thousands of yuan. Many anglers can't accept this price. In such cases, we can just consider using a slightly softer rod. Moreover, for most anglers, it's not suitable to buy monster fish rods or lightweight monster fish rods. These kinds of rods are not only stiff but also heavy, and they are rarely used in a year. I always suggest that everyone buy all-purpose rods. For short rods, choose small all-purpose ones. Now there are many lightweight small all-purpose rods and ultralight small all-purpose rods, which are all similar. If it's a long rod, buy a large all-purpose one. It can definitely handle fish weighing more than 10 catties, so you don't have to worry. Supplement: the longer the rod, the more helpful it is for reeling in big fish. This is for sure. To battle big fish with small hooks and thin lines, the main line can be a bit longer. It should be stated in advance that a longer main line has both advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage is that you need to be careful when reeling in and landing the fish. Pay attention to the angle of the rod. If the bending angle of the front section of the rod is too small, it's easy to have the rod broken, especially the second section. When your rod is soft and the fishing line is long, you must not stand still at the fishing spot while reeling in the fish. After stabilizing the fish, try to step back as much as possible. When landing the fish, try to ask someone nearby to help. If there's no one around, try to tire the fish out until it rolls over before landing it. There are two advantages of a long main line. First, it's relatively not easy to cast the line fully. The difficulty in casting can also be regarded as a disadvantage. If you don't cast the line fully, the probability of straight line tugging will be reduced. In addition, a longer line increases the radius for reeling in the fish, which is more beneficial for competing with the fish. As for how much longer the main line should be than the rod, it depends on your casting skills. If you cast by swinging the rod like a whip, it's okay to have the line a few meters longer. Supplement: when fishing with a line as long as the rod, pull the line back a little after casting to keep the main line from being too tight. To battle big fish with small hooks and thin lines, lift the rod gently. As mentioned earlier, the thicker the hook and the heavier the line, the harder you lift the rod, which scares the fish more, making them burst out with greater strength, and it's very easy to have the line broken. Sometimes, the rod can't even be bent, and the line is broken instantly. With small hooks and thin lines, when the hook pierces the fish barely feel it, maybe similar to a person being bitten by a mosquito. Plus, if you lift the rod gently, the fish won't resist fiercely or exert their full strength. It should be supplemented here that whether you are fishing for small fish or specifically targeting big fish, you should try to stay fully focused, and it's best to keep your eyes on the float and your hand on the rod. I know it's very difficult, especially when there are few bites. It's hard to keep staring at the float. But at least you should be serious during the feeding window. By watching the float carefully and keeping your hand on the rod, you can set the hook immediately when there's a movement of the float indicating a bite. This way, you won't miss the bite, and you can take the initiative. If you get distracted and are attacked by the fish unexpectedly, the line set may be pulled straight, and the line will break when you lift the rod. Or the hook may be pulled into obstacles, and even the rod may be dragged away. To battle big fish with small hooks and thin lines, attach an emergency rope. This is the most straightforward method, and at the same time, it's the simplest and most useful one. Although the skills for reeling in fish sound not difficult, they are not necessarily easy to operate in practice. Especially for beginners, when a big fish is hooked, the excitement is indescribable, and they may go blank, forgetting all the skills. What's more, when the fish is very large and extremely powerful, none of your skills will work. For example, if it is determined to swim outward, what can you do besides holding the rod tightly to resist? Some anglers may say to swing the rod left and right or lean the rod to one side. Not to mention whether beginners can react in time. Even if they can do it, the fish may not turn back. I have tried this many times. In such cases, if you have an emergency rope, don't hesitate to let go of the rod. First, avoid its initial fierce charge, then pull back and forth to gradually exhaust its strength. What if you panic and forget to let go of the rod? What if the emergency rope is fully extended but the fish keeps swimming forward? Then you can only sigh. Finally, it should be stated that this article is not advocating that you use small hooks and thin lines to battle big fish. If possible, using thick lines and big hooks is definitely better. However, in some places with poor fishing resources, it's very difficult to wait for big fish, or when you specifically target big fish but they just don't bite. These skills can be useful when you have to fish for both small and big fish. Author profile: I am a self-media blogger who loves fishing and is good at sharing. Follow me, and we will exchange fishing skills and discuss every bit of wild fishing for anglers. Give a like, collect, and follow so you won't miss the next update.